All right, welcome back to the Alliance Tournament Semifinals, our last match before the end of the day final. It's going to be between Verge of Collapse and Exodus, and these teams have brought a pair of setups that look like mirrors almost.
They're very similar setups, yes. The Exodus team has brought 2 Chronoses, a Vindicator, Damnation, a Neros, 2 Enyos, 4 Incurses, and a Griffin.
Which team was that?
That's the Exodus team.
Okay, and Verge of Collapse is stuck with their Chronoses. They have an Eos and a Brutix, an Oneros, a pair of Sentinels again, 4 Ishkars, and a Maulus. So they kind of have downgraded their support, having normal Frigs except for the Sentinels, rather than the
the extra Chronos that
rather than the extra Chronos. I was like, well, they have Incurses on the other side too.
So Chronos or Exodus has tried to save points with moving down to Griffins and Incurses instead of Sentinels and Ishkars. Tried to use those extra points to pick up extra Chronos. We'll see if that worked for them. They warped in their Chronoses at 0, while the Verge of Collapse team warped in their guys at about 30.
Actually, most of them between 30 and 50. So it'll be a second before damage gets started, but the match is underway.
There'll be a bunch of tracking disruptors.
Yep, a lot of tracking disruptors from the support. Of course, the Sentinels are bonused for it, so Exodus might have a little bit harder time in terms of tracking.
But considering that they're going after a Chronos first,
it doesn't matter so much.
They're going to have trouble tracking that.
Right. Yeah. Damps on that Oneros, that could be relevant if they force the Oneros in and let the Chronoses get a hold of it, but
interestingly, no jam effects appearing on the Verge team yet, even though Exodus has a Griffin. It's possible that they just haven't chosen a target yet, that they're trying to wait, or that he's not within
He's really far away.
Yeah, he may have just gotten too far. That may be a piloting mistake on his part. But we are seeing damage being applied to that Chronos. He's getting into armor. We're going to see how well that Neros can take him. And at the same time, the Incursuses for Exodus are taking down one of the Ishkars for Verge.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that works out. We've talked a lot in this tournament about the choice to go for opposing support rather than putting all your DPS committed onto their main battleship that your core ships are shooting at. So it looks like they're trading damage here, though. Incursus is fighting Ishkars, at least somewhat. And then the Chronos is fighting in the middle, and it looks like Exodus is struggling a little more to keep their Chronos up.
Yeah, and this Frig battle, my money's definitely on the Ishkars over the Incurses. Incurses do actually probably about as much damage as an Ishkar, but they don't have nearly this kind of tank. So it's going to be a lot harder, and especially since that Incursus for Exodus isn't getting any reps at the moment, because he's having to focus entirely on the Chronos, which he has repped pretty much back up. So at the moment, the only ship that's in a whole lot of danger is that Incursus for Exodus, but both battleships taking a lot of damage at the moment.
Exodus now deciding maybe that a Brutix is a better target. They put a web on the Brutix, went through its shields, but then it tanked. Now a Sentinel web, that's actually really important, but still tanking just fine on their Chronos. This is going to be interesting to see who breaks first. Yeah,
I think shooting the Brutix is a good choice. It doesn't have the Tech 2 resist that the Chronos has. It's the squishiest of these sizable ships on that team. Makes a great target, not only because of the damage it brings, but also because it's likely to have a gang link, keeping the rest of their team boosted. So knocking that ship down is going to add some good benefits, and the Sentinel drops for Verge.
But at the same time, that Exodus Chronos is getting hurt real bad. He's low armor. They might trade Chronos for Brutix, which is obviously a bad trade, even though you're right that the links make a huge difference.
But yes, losing that, he's pulling back a bit, but he's going to take another chunk out of structure next.
You know, the Oneros had a jam icon on it, so it's possible that some jam drones got a cycle on the Oneros and the reps dropped, and that's why he's low, but that now he'll be stable again because he was stable before.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard, that Oneros must be overheating on him, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
That was the Chronos. Same time the Brutix goes down. Wow, trading. Second Sentinel hurting bad, second Sentinel going down for Verge. Exodus lost an Incursus. So really back and forth.
For battleship numbers, actually, Exodus is still doing decently because of the fact that they had an extra one. So now they've got 2 Chronos and a Vindicator versus 2 Cronoses. And that's a lot of damage they're applying to the 1 Chronos of Simcore for Verge.
Wow.
We'll have to see if he can tank well enough. No, the reps went onto the wrong Chronos. You can see the rep icon for Verge. There, Neros put his reps initially on the wrong Chronos. He's switched to the right one now, but he's already in structure. It may not be too late. That mistake by War God of Verge of Collapse, an old member of PL, unfortunately may cost him the match. But, he's pulling back a bit in structure.
Oh my gosh.
But he's bleeding. It's going to be tough to keep that guy up. He must be overheating his reps at this point, but it's probably not going to be enough. We're seeing bits of
little more structure damage.
At the same time, though, an Opes Chronos for Exodus dropping, but if Simcore drops first, then it'll be a lot easier for him to tank him out.
I can't believe that mistake. That hurts so bad. You know, you look and see the Chronos taking damage, and then he has it selected on the wrong one and just hits the button, and then he has to wait a whole cycle to switch it. He's hanging on just barely, and they're killing support. They killed another Incursus. If they can even bring down a couple more of those, it's possible that he would be able to tank it. It's
right on the edge of it. And their Griffin has gone down too. Another Incursus dropping. The Ishkars for Verge are doing a great job of taking down the support.
There goes an Incursus. Back to 30% armor for a second. Oh my gosh,
man,
he's
that's
got like
right on the
4%.
edge. If he goes down, then all of a sudden the Kronos for an Nope is going to have a much easier time tanking. But in the meantime, the support war is being won. That being said, those Ishkars are taking a lot of group damage. I think this picks, they're all on top of the smart bombs in the middle of the fight.
Absolutely.
They're trying to add their damage to a Nope's Kronos. But because of the fact that War God has to put all of his reps on Simcore to have any chance of continuing, he's not able to rep those Ishkars, so they may die to smart bombs while this is going on the Kronos.
There goes
and
the
there
Kronos.
goes Simcore's Kronos.
But the Exodus Kronos almost dead itself. Of course, now it'll have a way easier time holding up against.
Oh, it looks like he may have had a jam cycle onto the Oneirus for a bit.
Or maybe the Oneirus is capped out because of nukes on it from
he does have
support.
nukes on him, so. And
there
it
goes. Oh my gosh, one battleship each team.
But God's Coldblood's Kronos is also dropping down.
Oh my gosh.
This is a remarkable amount of damage. Now though, War God has his reps on the right target. He had the time to rep up some of those Ishkars in the meantime. I think he's probably going to be able to tank the one Vindicator, and having those Ishkars is going to be what turns it, as we see one of the Enyos now, hacker elite for
both
Enyos
Enyos now
dropping.
taking tons of damage. Ishkar's starting to work on them. I was going to say earlier, the Verge Logistics was doing a great job keeping the Ishkars topped off while he was repping the battleships and the Brutix. But once he made that mistake and had to keep all his reps on the Kronos, he wasn't able to do that anymore, and so they got real low. But now, like you said, they brought them all back up to full, and now the Enyos taking damage.
War
The
God was able to keep him alive
for
long
Exodus
enough.
going down.
The Ishkars are all on top of that Oneirus. That hero job of repping after the initial mistake by War God, keeping Simcore alive that long is what turned this fight.
Man.
If he had gone down, if one more cycle of those guns had gone into him before the reps had caught, then he would have disappeared, a Nope wouldn't have died, and this would have gone the other way. But Verge of Collapse, who have knocked out some of the most impressive teams in this tournament, look to be in the driver's seat at this point, although God's Coldblood is still taking a sizable amount of damage. However, that Oneirus from Mr. Falcon's dropping fast, and that's going to basically end this fight, because War God's still alive, the Oneirus from Verge of Collapse, and at this point, they just have to burn down the remaining support, and then eventually the Vindicator of Sabotage.
You know, we were talking earlier about how important the skill of your logistics pilot is, and we saw there, like, how just one tiny mistake can flip a match. It does look like they're going to hang in there now, though both these Enyos about to go. The Oneirus just went down. One Vindicator after that. It's amazing how much damage that Vindy does with those Enyos. I mean, the Kronos still struggling to tank.
But as each of those Enyos drops, the damage on him is going to decrease. And he's right on the edge, so a single Enyo is probably enough to allow him to be perma-tanked at this point.
And then after that, they go after the Vindy, and that'll pretty much do it. What a crazy match. Two
Right
really good teams. Two teams we didn't think would even be in this bracket at this point. Almost everybody had different teams by the semis. Almost by the quarters had different teams than these two. And both of them have shown that they absolutely belong here. Quite the match to finish off this side of the bracket, too.
Yeah, now God's Coldblood is being repped up, Sabotage is dropping down, and we are going to be seeing Verge of Collapse going into a final against Hun Reloaded. So if you're Verge right now, how would you counter the Vargers that we can almost definitely assume that Hun is going to bring?
I think the best thing for them to do is bring a setup a lot like what they've been doing all tournament. Kronoses, Vindicators, some kind of high DPS battleship, and then I think what I would do is move away from Resilience against DCM. Like, they have the EOS there now.
Switch that to a Damnation.
Go to a
perhaps.
Damnation. You know, keep the Sentinels. The Sentinels are fine, but go to stuff that doesn't worry about your ECM vulnerability quite as much and focuses more on your just normal tank and gank.
Yeah.
And just brawl those Vindicators down. I don't really know outside of that.
Because as amazing as Hun has been so far, I think their big weakness that they're showing is that they don't seem to have another setup. It's possible, again, they may surprise us, but
I
if
would
they had
love
something
if
else,
they showed up with
they
something
would have
different.
brought it against PL, though, I think. So Verge now has the next, what is it going to be, 25 minutes or so, to desperately come up with what they're going to take against those Vargers.
Maybe Hun knew that they could beat the Widow setup somehow, and so they felt comfortable bringing it again, even though they do have something in reserve. I don't know. We'll have to find out. I'm really curious. It's going to be a really awesome final.
So Sabotage's Vindicator now in structure, dropping quickly. We're going to see him go down, then the Damnation, which will take a little while to kill, but...
I think it'll actually take more than 1 minute and 37 seconds. So.
Yeah, Ray's Damnation may actually survive this fight. One way or another, though, the fight is definitely going to Verge at this point, and they are going to be in the finals. One of the things that often gets overlooked is the amount of effort it takes for these teams to scramble from setup to setup on the final day.
Yeah.
During the initial weekends, you have whole days between your matches. You can take your time. But on this final day, these teams have not only just the pilots that are on the field, but a bunch of other pilots in reserve, pilots for different setups, people ready to be called in that are just staying by their computer all day long. They have logistics people buying the ships, buying the items, moving them to the right locations. Some of them stay in JITA in order to make it easier, but one way or another, this is a huge logistical effort beyond just the effort of fighting the matches.
And it's a huge strategic effort away from the matches. I mean, they have so little time to decide how they're going to respond to the fact that people know they're going to bring Vargers. I mean, usually you'd have a whole week to think about the way people are going to react to that, make maybe a decision as a group or whatever. And in this case, they have like 20 minutes they have to decide what they're going to do, and then that's it.
If Verge saw that, or didn't expect they were going to be up against Hun, they may not have ever tested against Vargers.
Yeah.
It's possible Verge has never run tests against Vargers, and if so, they just don't have time to ever run tests against Vargers now. So they just have to use the knowledge that they've gained through other testing, through watching the matches, and do their best to guess about what's coming up. And we're going to see in not too long who is going to come on top of that.
Wow. What a crazy match. That was so close. That Vindy, I mean, that Kronos was like 4% structure for so long.
Yeah, that
Unbelievable.
does an amazing job keeping the Kronos of Simcore up. We're going to be seeing that Damnation dropping soon. And our final for this year, for the 10th Alliance tournament, is going to be Hun Reloaded, Tournament 4 champions coming back to retake their title versus Verge of Collapse. No one in EVE has ever won a tournament, then lost one, and then come back and won again.
All right.
So far, every time teams have lost, they've trailed off after that. And Hun did trail off for a while, but coming back and winning again after an absence of 6 years, that is going to be an incredible achievement if they can make it. But we'll just have to see. The time has run out, so Raze's Damnation did survive the fight, and we're going to now send you back to Soundwave in the studio and see their reaction there.